Hello, my name's Jon Eakes, and I want to talk about the table saw. Probably one of the most basic tools in our whole shop. Remember when you got your first saw and you took it out of the box, that's when you discovered there's really not much to it. You have a table and a saw blade, so you have some way to put the wood down and there's something to cut it with. Now you need some way to guide the wood into the saw blade. So it comes with a fence. In this case, we've actually taken off the original fence and added a much larger, more precise fence that'll give us a better job. And then you have your miter gauge. Miter gauge is really quite limited as it comes. If you've read the instruction manual, you find out right away they tell you to add a piece of wood, which gives you a larger, better bearing surface for carrying the wood across the table. Remember when you tried to do angles at the beginning? Everything wanted to slip along this fence, and so you got white knuckles holding on to it for 45-degree miters. Here's a little tip. Add 100 grit sandpaper to the fence here, self-adhesive sandpaper or contact cement. It'll hold the wood in with minimum gripping or clamping and give you good miter cuts. Still have some problems here, is when you back off completely off the back end, well, after a while you lose control. Or if your wood is simply too long, when you're trying to move across, it wobbles as you go. When you really want precision out of a table saw or any particular style of cut, you need jigs that will guide and control the wood across the table. I want to talk about 3 particular jigs that I use all the time. Square. And that's not easy to do with a board this wide, this long, with a regular miter gauge. It would kind of wobble all over the table. You probably wouldn't get it that precise. The sliding table or the crosscut jig carries wood very easily and nicely squarely to the blade. What is it actually? It's simply a big piece of plywood with a couple runners down on the bottom here that lock into the table as it goes and keeps everything in position. It's a lot easier to build than it looks like. Really, all you need to do is you get those 2 runners, and they're just pieces of hardwood that fit into a nice sliding fit in the slots here. Put them into place in the table. Take a piece of plywood, a little larger than your table, lay it down on top, and square it out to some extent. You pull the runners and the plywood out over this edge so that you can just get underneath and drive 2 screws in. Put it on the other side, put the screws down on the other side, and the whole thing's starting to come together. Now, if I were to raise the blade and cut into it, it would fall into 2 pieces, and that won't help. So we add this framework on the back side to help hold it all together. And this doesn't have to be square to anything. Just put it on there approximately square. That's good enough. Now we're going to cut through, actually. Turn on your blade, cut through, not all the way. Let's go about 3/4 of the way through this piece of plywood. Stop, turn the saw off, and back off. Now we put the fence on. I like to attach the fence with glue and then 1 screw on one side. Bring the square in alongside the cut that we just made in the plywood and move the fence back and forth on that pivot until the square is perfectly lined up with the slot. Then you can screw it in the rest of the way and make it solid, and our fence is now exactly perpendicular to the cut itself. Run the saw through completely and you've cut it in half, but it doesn't fall apart because these 2 sides hold it together. You add plexiglass on the top as a dust protection, a solid block back here to literally stop the blade from coming through. Extension for my stop block here, and we have a good sliding table jig or a crosscut jig. And it can do a lot more than just trim off the ends of boards that are awkward to handle. It can do anything that classifies as a crosscut. A good example would be a half lap joint like this, and I'll show you how to do that. There's really only 2 things we need to know to make this relatively simple joint. That is to say, how deep do we cut to get halfway through the wood, and how far back do we cut to get this shoulder. I'm going to do both of them right on the jig without a tape measure. Our first task is to find out what half the thickness of this blade is, the wood. Drop the blade down a little more than halfway so that we know it's not quite enough cut. We're going to make a trial cut, test it, trial, test it. It's really quite fast, but you'll get precisely halfway through the wood this way. To test the cut, you put the boards together as if you were making the joint. It's still a little bit proud here. We'll have to remove some more wood. When you raise the blade, be careful. We're cutting into both boards, and the effect is doubled. A little goes a long way. There we are, already flush. That gives me the cut exactly halfway up through the board. I have no idea what the dimension is, but I know it's going to be halfway, and that's what I need to make the joint. Now the next task is to cut this back to the shoulder. How far is that? Well, it's the width of the board that goes on this way. So rather than measure and transfer the measurements, I'm going to use the wood itself to measure it, and this time we're going to use a stop block. Stop block is simply a block of wood that goes on the face here. I've got a slot just to let me put the clamp in. This particular one has one little feature I should point out to you. When you're doing repetitive cuts to length, you don't want to bind the loose piece of wood between the blade and the stop. It could kick. So you'll bring it in, push it over, then flip this up out of the way, which leaves this piece really loose, cut through the blade, this comes out freely out of the way, drop it down for your next one, and off you go. I don't need that particularly for what I'm doing now. What we want to do, simply put this board in here as a measurement device to the edge of the cut, because that's the left side here, the blade. And we'll bring the block over into contact with it, and you can even do it conservatively and adjust it later if you want to not cut too far. Once you've got this blocked in right, you can do a whole set of these joints without moving anything at all. Now we're ready to simply bring this edge in that we had just prepared, do the same half cut here. In fact, we can do them both at the same time. In fact, with this sliding table jig, we could gang quite a number of them up here and do them all at once. Really quick, easy, and accurate. Let's do it. Now that we have the depth defined and the shoulders cut, all we need to do is to waste wood out to the end of the board. You can do it like I'm doing here with repetitive cuts. You could also use a dado blade, which would take off more wood in each pass. Some people prefer to make just a few saw cuts and take it out with a wood chisel. You could also do it in a single cut with another jig on the table saw. That'll make a good joint. All I have to do is just barely touch the surface up with some sandpaper, and we're right in there. Well, in one pass, I've cut the entire cheek here. A second pass on the crosscut jig would cut the shoulder, and in two simple cuts, I'd have the entire half-flat joint taken care of. Let's take a look at the jig that allows us to do this kind of a thing. It's real simple. Basically, a piece of plywood here, higher than the fence, that slides along the fence, and that's our main working surface. There's another piece on the back side here that actually wraps around the fence to help hold everything into place. Over here, I've got another piece of plywood comes out at a right angle to the first one, and that's basically to hold in place this plexiglass guard back here that keeps me away from the blade as it comes out the backside, and this cam action clamp, which is basically just a circle with a handle on it, a screw put in off-center, and you can see how it moves over to clamp the wood into place. Pick that up from Frank Klaus. Over here, the brace is simply a very lightweight way to hold it all together and keep this right angle. When you have a blade that's as precise as this for cutting those cheeks, we can do a joint that's twice as strong as a half-lap joint. An open bridle joint like this has twice the gluing surface and better mechanical fit. You have to do the tenon, cutting both sides, and the open mortise. We start with the open mortise. The very first task is to set the depth of the blade simply to the width of the wood. We'll just check this out. There, that'll get it. Now we need to adjust the distance between the blade and the fence. We want it to be fairly close to the center of the wood. That's probably about there. You notice I didn't fuss with centering this cut because when I turn it around, the second cut automatically centers the open mortise. Now we have the open mortise cut, approximately 1/3 of the thickness of the whole board, and it's nice and centered. Now, to set up for the tenon cut, same depth, I'll actually use the one we just cut to give me a rough lineup. That is to say, I want to position the fence. Using the other piece, I'll move the blade over into the meat of this one, which is the waist of my tenon. Do it approximate. We might do a couple of times to get it to exactly the right position. A real good test is to rough off the waist on your first tenon to make sure the joint fits perfectly before doing all the rest on your project. Once again, the fact of making 2 passes, 1 on each side, automatically centers the tenon. That's the cut I'm looking for. Cut off the shoulders on the cross-cutting jig, and the joint is finished. Let's take a look at another joint, the box joint or the finger joint. It's a great way for making boxes because there's a lot of glue surface and it makes a very strong corner joint. It's quite attractive and it's easy to build. This particular one is made with 1/8" fingers and slots. That's just the size of a standard carbide saw blade. I'm going to take a look at the same thing but using a dado blade, approximately 1/2 inch wide. Now, how do we control it? How do we get that equidistance as we go? We're going to use the miter jig with a slight addition to it. Very simple little jig we're going to add on. Basically, it's just a piece of plywood high enough that we can support our material vertical up. We first of all cut a slot through the blades. It gives me a slot like this. Then I'm going to take and cut a piece of hardwood, use a plane to plane it down so it fits exactly in there. This is my indexing pin. And with that, a bunch of straight lines here are just to help guide me visually to keep my boards vertical up later on. Now, where does it go on here? Take a look. The blade itself cuts the slot, and that doesn't change because it stays in the same place and the same width. What changes is the distance between the indexing pin and the blade, and that's where the finger is. So if I move out this way, we get a fat finger. If you come in here, you get a skinny finger. And by moving the indexing jig left and right, you actually adjust the tension of the fit on this joint. Now, how do we get it approximately good position? I'll take a piece of wood that I just cut off of this one that I fixed up for the indexing pin, so it's the same thickness, put it next to the blade, and that defines the space of the fingers the same as the slots. In fact, I usually cheat it a little fat to start with. I'm going to fine-tune this by cutting into scrap wood, the same hardness as my final wood, but only about 2 inches wide, so I don't have to cut for a long time to do my test. The first piece comes up tight against the indexing pin. I like to do them both at the same time, so I'll take my little spacer here again and space out the second one so they're indexed over. Eyeball with the pencil lines on the board to make sure it's vertical up. Let's get rid of that, and then we'll be ready to cut through with our first cut. The sliver on the left indicates that we've made the fingers a little heavy. The depth of cut is simply the thickness of the board if you want the pins flush. The pins are too thick to fit into the slots, so we'll loosen the clamps and move the indexing jig over. We want the indexing pin closer to the blade to make thinner fingers. The sliver of the end is just barely there. We're almost dead on the edge. Now the fit is good and snug. Now that we've got the joint just the right tension by getting the index finger in the right place, we're ready to do the corner for a real box joint here. 4-inch wide boards this time. I've marked the outside faces and the top of the box so that I know where everything goes. And that's important because what's useful is to collapse the boards back around face to face, the outside faces together. That stops tear out on the visible surface. Put them in here, index it as usual, and we're ready to cut. My 4-inch boards and 1/2-inch wide dado cut will give me an even number of pins from one side to the other. If in your job you come out with an odd-sized pin on the end, if it's strong enough, leave it. It can look nice. If it's a weak little sliver, you have two choices. Either make your boards narrower, cutting off that odd-sized pin, or just add spacers to your dado to make larger slots and fingers. Oh, that's a nice fit. Jigs. They're really what give the table saw its full potential. They can be as complex as the sliding table crosscut jig that we've used before, or simple as a piece of plywood with an indexing pin. One way or the other, they give you predictable results every time.